I'm Josie.
And I'm Vicky, and today we're revisiting the topic of motherhood.
So we say revisit because we did this topic originally back in like 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
And I just think it's gonna be a good topic. I'm curious to see if any of our perspectives or thoughts have changed on it.
Yeah. I also feel like it's really topical right now. Before we started recording, I was telling Josie about the recent interview that Chappell Roan had on that other podcast called Call Her Daddy, where she specifically said that she doesn't know of any of her friends that are her age that are parents that are happy and that they are all miserable, which caused like this huge discourse on TikTok about like feminism and its connection to motherhood, and how mothers are always being attacked. And then it caused like an influx of like mothers and parents basically like defending their happiness and like saying like, no, I'm happy, I swear, which caused an interesting conversation. Yeah.
I don't think I didn't see that video.
I haven't watched the whole thing. I just like saw that one clip of her saying that, and I thought it was really interesting because I think that calls back to like something that we talked about in the first time that we talked about this topic, which was like becoming a parent and becoming a mother and like losing a sense of self. And since we have recorded that podcast, I am still not a parent.
Not a parent. Why you look at me like, oh, are you a parent?
Because I was like waiting for you to also be like, I'm also not a parent. So I feel like our perspective on it is like as children of mothers and like having like friends who are parents and family members who are parents and like seeing what that discourse looks like from afar. Coworkers, that kind of thing. Yeah. I forgot what I was saying before I mentioned that.
No, I don't recall either.
That's fine.
But I think in thinking about that and in our viewpoint standpoint, I do think a lot about like my mom and what she experienced because she was like 21. There's this picture of her. She's 25. She's blowing out her candles, but she looks so deadpan and so serious. She's holding me in one hand, and I'm just like, and my brother's like fresh out the room with like a big ass head. And I think it's funny like seeing that picture every now and then because it like in that particular picture she does look like she's like empty. But I know that's not her outlook on life, and I know that's not who all she was in that moment.
I don't know. I think it's interesting because I think as I get like older, I guess, since the last time we talked about this, I am centering my mother a lot less in thinking about motherhood and like centering myself because I feel like I'm reaching the age where you would like traditionally have kids. And I'm getting married this year. And like, I feel like as soon as you get married, like you literally say I do. And then people are like, so when are you having kids? And I
would throw myself out the window.
Right? So I'm already like, I feel like I'm already centering myself when I'm thinking of motherhood and like trying to imagine what I would look like and what my life would look like and even like what that would look like in today's climate. And like, I don't know. It just like mothering is such, not that it was less deep back when we first talked about it, but I feel like it's gained so many more like urgent layers I think is what
Okay.
I'm trying to say. That a lot of the things that you think about with mothering have always existed in these
Mm-hmm.
conversations, but feel a little bit more present and on the surface nowadays. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think especially when there's back to the whole like chaperone. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Chaperone
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, it has been a common like topic where people bring up and they're like, oh yeah, why would you want to stay at home and like um be a mom or do this stuff and I think people often talk about that in like they try to talk about that in like a feminist like standpoint, but it's also
Mhm.
like why are you knocking somebody else down if they want to be a mom?
Yeah.
Let them do that.
Yucking someone
Yeah.
else's yum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me it's been more the opposite because I think so yeah, my mom had me when I was like 21, when she was 21, when she was 21. My mom had
Mhm.
me when she was 21. And so my viewpoint when it came to like mothering and being a mom, like I envisioned myself having kids by like that age.
Mm.
And obviously 21 came, it left. And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere near like being in a relationship. I'm nowhere near like any of that. Um, and I not that I would mind. I don't think I would mind being at this age or being like in early 40s like having a kid. I
Mhm.
just didn't see that for myself initially.
Yeah.
Because in my mind I was like, yeah, have a kid, pop a kid out like by 20, 21, 40. Cool, bye. Peace out. Live your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that my mom had my sister when she was like either 19 or 20, and
Hmm.
then she had me when she was like 22 or
Yeah.
23. And it was my mom, you can ask her to this day. She always says that she succeeded as a parent, knowing that me and my sister surpassed the age that she was when she got
Mm,
pregnant and had kids, and that we're like beyond that. So, like, I feel the complete opposite, where like I never thought that I would have like kids by her like age. And if I did, I like felt like I would have disappointed her.
mm,
So like now that I'm 27, it feels maybe like the appropriate age to
yeah.
have kids. But I see so much like discourse, I guess for lack of better words, online about how like you feel more sure of yourself and you know yourself better in your 30s and your 40s,
Mm,
and that's when you should really think about having kids rather than when you're still finding yourself and you're still young, um like in your 20s. Not that you're not young when you're 30 or
30.
40, that's
Yeah.
still pretty young. To me, I feel like you're not like old until you're like 60 or 70 when your bones really start creaking.
um, I I was having this conversation with my friends this past weekend. And we got on the topic about like kids, and we were all like, yeah, like at this point in your life, if you were to be pregnant, would you have a kid or not?
Mhm.
And I always think that's just like a fun topic just to like see what people's like viewpoints are. Um, but somewhere along the topic, I ended up confessing to my friends that I don't see myself having children,
Mm.
but if I were to have children, I'm either having 3 or 5 children. Zero, 3 or 5, no in between.
You have said this before, and each time it just always leaves me like, okay.
If I'm gonna have a kid, they're not gonna be. I'm not gonna raise a single child because single children have a.
It's really interesting because I know I keep bringing up TikTok, and I know this clip is gonna end up
Yeah.
on TikTok. But I recently saw something that was defending only children because it was just like, oh, like you like talk all this shit about only children, but they get all the attention from the parents and they get so much love and nurturing, that they don't have like the second child or the third child syndrome where like you feel forgotten. Um, which is interesting. I also feel the same way. I don't think that I could ever just have like one kid just because of the like relationship that I have with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I want that for like my child if I ever have one. Like I feel like it's so rich and it's so amazing, and she's like my best friend that I couldn't imagine like bringing a child into this world and like depriving them of the joy and the like fighting and pulling hair and biting and arguing of having a sibling.
Yeah, yeah. I also have a really good relationship with my brother, and I had really good relationships with my cousins too.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, like I think if I were to have kids, I'm 3 or 5 because I like odd numbers, like specifically 3 and 5. I don't like 7.
5 kids is insane
It just
though.
feels right. It just feels right because like
Oh my
because then they
god.
can be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go visit like my brother. I'm gonna go visit like my or like their kids can say I'm gonna go visit my uncle. I get to hang out with my uncle, my aunt, like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of only children that I know or people that I know who are older children and have a big age gap tend to have a more of like of an individualistic mindset,
Yeah.
which makes sense with the way they were raised. But I was raised with my cousins and in a big household, and I always had somebody to hang out with and be with,
Yeah.
and so that's what I would want to envision for children should I ever have them. Again, do I have any intent to have children? No. Should it ever happen? If I have one, I'm popping out 2 more.
I wanted to center us back on the
Yeah.
conversation of mothering, and I want
Yes.
you to like think about like what it would look like, what your life would look like having 5 kids and having to like give birth to 5 kids and having to raise 5 kids. Because I feel like we're talking a lot about like sibling dynamics and
Yeah.
like when they're older, but there's still like so many years of like child rearing
Yeah.
that needs to happen.
Happen. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's all I can think of when you say that you want 5 kids. Because like I'm assuming that you want them like close in age as well. So then that's like 1 or 2 years or 3 years max apart from each other.
Yeah.
And that just sounds so expensive and exhausting.
It does sound expensive and exhausting. I've I know there are people who like to like plan, but I'm like, in life there are no plans.
Oh my god.
Stuff just happens and you kind of roll with it. You figure it out.
Okay.
Um, um, but I got a little lost there. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a planner and a
Yeah.
researcher. Like, if I'm going to do as much research as possible before I jump into a situation, it's still fully aware that like anything can happen
Hmm.
and like maybe my research means nothing in the end, but at least it gives me like a sense of security that I feel like I've fully prepared myself for what I think could potentially happen.
Hmm.
So I've been doing a lot of that once like my brain fully developed at 25, and
Yeah.
I've been like doing some like surveying of folks that have kids, just trying to figure out like what that looks like, and how they feel like their lives have gone. And I've
Yeah.
gotten like some interesting like feedback from some folks. Like some I've discovered like completely regret having children,
Okay.
like love their kids, but like don't feel like it was for them and that it was a mistake. I have someone else who described having kids as like I don't know if you've ever watercolored, but like this idea of you painting something in watercolor and then dipping your brush into more of the paint and then touching like a little like dot of water and then just color just expanding. That's how she described like having kids had the effect on her life. Like everything just got like a little bit more vivid. um
Hmm.
I've had other folks like talk about like kids were okay until they got older, and then it was like a new layer to their relationship and this is what they always wanted. So it's just I don't know, it's interesting to me, and I'm just really fascinated by like everyone's different experience being a mother and like what that means to them and how it changed their life.
Hmm.
Because I've seen so many like TikToks about like the genetics that you get from your mother versus the genetics that you get from your father. But like the most like solid thing is the fact that like your genes are permanently altered from having kids. And to think that like you're changed so fully by this experience is just fascinating to me. I still have no idea if I ever want kids, but like the process of like getting pregnant and then raising a kid and like watching it grow is just, it's fascinating. Is it fascinating enough for me to do? Probably, maybe, I don't know. It's leaning towards no recently, but yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was one time where you thought I hated kids.
Yeah.
And I had to be like, nah, like I used to do that for a living. Like I love children.
Yeah, yeah, you did
um
use to nanny.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know, I've never really put like that extent of thought
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to but I also don't I again like I'm nowhere near that place in my life and I probably won't ever be, which is fine.
Mm.
Um but I think there was a part of me where like for a while, like longest time I did want to have kids and I did want to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that that you would change fully. I think in my mind, and it might not be realistic, but I feel like you don't have to change and it's not like I don't know, I just refuse to believe that you lose yourself or that you become a whole different person and maybe you do. But I think we're always shifting to
I like to think of it as like maybe like a Pokemon where like you are just,
evolving.
yeah, you're just literally evolving into like
Yeah.
maybe a better version of yourself. I'm not that knowledgeable on Pokemon, so I don't know if you can evolve into a worse version of yourself. But that's how I like to imagine it. That you're just like, you're still like at your core yourself, but you're gaining like this new layer of like understanding of life, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the last time that we talked about mothering, we mentioned about like how you don't need to give birth to a child to be a mother and to have like the experience of mothering and to like mother someone or something or someone.
Because it's nurturing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nurturing. You don't think that you'll, I don't know, you it sounded so like finite when you said that before that you don't think that you'll ever have that experience. Now that we've kind of like revisited our definition of it, do you change your perspective?
No, I just don't see I just feel like I don't see myself having a pet. I don't see myself having children. I think I keep coming across people who um want to live individually and I'm someone who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I feel like all the odds are against me right now to like nurture and grow with people. So,
Mm. Okay, that's fair.
yeah. But in my ideal world, let's say if I got to live with someone like a friend or anyone like that, we would nurture each other.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like I think something beautiful about our previous conversation was like about how you can mother anyone,
Mhm.
like, and how mothering comes in different forms.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like our conversation focused on a lot on like the quote unquote like traditional like definition of being a mother and
Mhm.
like giving birth. Um, so I mean, this podcast is called Little by Slowly, so we'll always revisit and touch back on topics. And maybe the next time we talk about this, we'll dive a little deeper into something we talked about now, like 3 years
Yeah.
ago, on nurturing and mothering in that definition. So, yeah.